The desert was supposed to be empty, silent, and endless, but then he saw it. A mirror standing upright in the sand, impossibly clean, reflecting a world that shouldn't exist. One step closer, and he realized it wasn't the desert staring back at him. It was him, and the reflection was smiling. Before we start, join our YouTube family by subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, let's get into the story. The boy had been wandering the desert for what felt like an eternity. The sun hung high, scorching everything beneath it with an unrelenting gaze, turning the sand into a shifting sea of gold and heat. His throat was parched, his lips cracked, and every step sent a soft cloud of dust curling around his boots. He had no map, no compass, and certainly no plan. He didn't even remember why he had come this far. Perhaps it had been curiosity, stubbornness, or just the strange pull of the desert itself. All he knew was that he was alone, completely and utterly alone, and the endless expanse around him seemed determined to swallow him whole. At first, he had tried to rationalize his situation. He told himself that this was an adventure, a test of courage. He repeated mantras in his head, things like, asterisk, I can handle this. I am strong enough. I will find my way. Yet, with each passing hour, the desert mocked him silently. The horizon blurred, bending and folding in the heat, and he began to lose all sense of direction. The world had shrunk to a single point, the sand under his feet and the sun above him. Every instinct screamed for him to turn back, yet some strange inner voice, persistent and cold, pushed him onward. That voice, he realized, wasn't rational, it was curiosity, the kind of curiosity that had defined his entire life, the one that had often gotten him into trouble, the one that refused to let him rest until he had uncovered whatever secret was hidden just out of reach. Then, amid the shifting dunes, he saw it. At first, it appeared as a shimmer in the distance, a trick of the heat rising from the sand. He squinted, rubbing his eyes, convinced it was a mirage. Yet, as he trudged closer, the shimmer took form. There, standing upright in the middle of nowhere, was a mirror, not leaning against anything, not partially buried, simply standing tall with an almost arrogant stillness. Its surface reflected the desert with perfect clarity, unbroken by dust or sand or time. The boy stopped in his tracks, his heart thumping in his chest with a mix of awe and unease. How could something like this exist here? Who would leave a mirror in the desert? Was it some prank? Some remnant of a civilization long gone? The questions tumbled in his mind, each one heavier than the last, but none came close to preparing him for what was about to happen. He approached cautiously, almost holding his breath. His reflection stared back, sunburned, dusty, and disheveled, yet familiar in a way that made him uncomfortable. He raised his hand slowly, and the reflection mimicked him, smooth and obedient. That simple act of synchrony sent a shiver down his spine. He felt a wave of fear rise from the pit of his stomach, mixed strangely with exhilaration. There was something alive in this mirror, he realized, something intelligent, something watching. His curiosity, the very trait that had brought him to this forsaken place, now clawed at him with an irresistible force. He wanted to touch it. He wanted to know what it was, why it was here, and if it could answer even a fraction of the endless questions in his mind. As he stepped closer, the air grew colder, though the sun still beat down relentlessly. He noticed that the reflection wasn't quite right. There was a subtle delay, a hesitation in the eyes that didn't belong to him. The reflection's gaze lingered too long on his movements, as if measuring, learning, predicting. The boy's curiosity shifted slightly, morphing into unease. He wanted to turn away, to run, yet some unseen tether kept him rooted to the sand. He tried to reason with himself. Asterisk, it's just a mirror. There's nothing supernatural here. This is my imagination. Asterisk, but even as he thought that, he could feel the subtle, almost imperceptible hum that seemed to radiate from the glass, a vibration that made his teeth chatter and his skin crawl. And it wasn't coming from the mirror alone, it was coming from inside him. His heart raced faster, pounding against his ribs with a ferocity he had never felt before. He realized, with a cold, sinking certainty, that he was standing at the threshold of something far bigger than the desert, far bigger than he could possibly imagine. The boy's mind flickered through memories, moments of bravery, recklessness, and small triumphs that had shaped him. He remembered the treehouse he had built as a child, precariously balanced among gnarled branches. How he had climbed higher than anyone else dared, driven by sheer curiosity. He remembered sneaking into the abandoned factory near the edge of town, discovering hidden rooms and long-forgotten machinery. Each memory reminded him of one inescapable truth. He was defined by his desire to explore, to uncover, to challenge the unknown. And yet, standing before the mirror, he realized that this time, his curiosity might cost him more than scraped knees or scolded parents. Something primal and menacing lurked in that reflection, and for the first time, he wondered if his insatiable desire to know had led him into a trap, far beyond his comprehension. His hand lifted slowly, trembling, as if obeying a command not entirely his own. The reflection followed with eerie precision. He could see a shadow cross its face, a smirk forming that he did not feel in his chest. Something about it made his stomach turn. The desert around him seemed too quiet. The wind died down. The faint sound of shifting sand stilled. Time itself seemed suspended, held in the mirror's gaze. The boy's pulse roared in his ears, drowning out everything else. He wanted to step back, to run, but some force, invisible and relentless, drew him closer. And then, in the corner of his eye, he noticed if the reflection had started to move independently. Its hand, once a perfect mimicry of his own, lifted before he did. Its lips curved into a smile, one that was far too wide, far too knowing, far too wrong. Fear rooted him in place, but his curiosity fought back, an unyielding fire in his chest. He knew he should flee. He knew he should turn away, leave the mirror to the emptiness of the desert. And yet he couldn't. Something about that impossible smile, that subtle, deliberate independence, pulled him forward like a tide he couldn't resist. Step by step, he approached every instinct, screaming against it. Every fiber of his being screaming to retreat. He knew, deep down, that whatever awaited on the other side or whatever was inside would change him forever. And perhaps, just perhaps, he was ready. Or maybe he had no choice. When his hand finally brushed the surface, the glass felt nothing like he expected. It was liquid cold, almost like water, pulling at his skin, tugging at him. His breath caught in his throat as the reflection's hand mirrored. His movement perfectly, but this time, it pressed against the glass with a force of its own. A tug, a pull. And before he could react, the world around him seemed to ripple. Like sand under a sudden gust of wind, a strange vertigo seized him, twisting his senses. The desert, the sun, the heat, they all vanished in an instant, replaced by a darkness that pressed in from every side. Panic surged, but even in that instant, his curiosity burned brighter than fear. Whatever lay beyond, he knew he had to see it. He had to experience it. And so, driven by the same force that had carried him into the desert, he stepped through. The world twisted around him, light and shadow colliding in patterns that made no sense. He felt weightless, suspended in a void that was neither air nor space. His mind raced, trying to grasp reality, to hold on to some shred of logic. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the sensation ended. He hit the ground hard, the air thick and wrong in his lungs. Blinking, he realized he was still in the desertor, at least a desert. The sky overhead was darker, heavier, almost oppressive, and the sand at his feet felt strange, colder, almost like ash. His heart raced, adrenaline and fear colliding in every fiber of his body. The mirror stood behind him, perfectly still, reflecting the desert. And yet, something was different. Inside it, he could see himself, not the boy who had stepped forward, but another desperate, pounding against the glass, screaming silently. The boy staggered backward, trembling. His mind struggled to comprehend what he saw. Was this him? Was it real? And if it was, what had he become? Every memory, every lesson in bravery and recklessness, every moment that had shaped him, now seemed insignificant. He realized with a shiver that his life, his identity, was not entirely his own. Something had entered the desert before him, something that had learned how to imitate, how to copy, how to replace, and in that reflection, he saw the consequences of his insatiable curiosity staring back at him. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to take a step closer again. Each step felt heavier, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. He had always believed that courage meant facing the unknown. That curiosity was a gift, but now the boy understood that curiosity could be a trap, that the line between discovery and danger was razor-thin, and that sometimes the unknown wasn't just waiting to be understood, was waiting to claim you. And as he raised his hand once more, the reflection's smile widened. It knew something he didn't, and the boy realized, with a chill that seeped into his bones, that the mirror was not just a reflection of the desert, it was a reflection of him, of everything he had ever been, and everything he might yet become. Something inside him shifted, a resolve hardening like stone. He would not be consumed. He would not be replaced. He would confront whatever waited beyond the glass. And yet, as his fingers touched the surface once more, a strange, irresistible pull yanked at him, stronger than before, promising secrets too terrifying to imagine, and he could not look away. The boy fell through the mirror as if the glass had become liquid air, swallowing him in a rush of cold and weightlessness. Fear gripped him instantly, sharp and relentless. But beneath it, the ember of curiosity burned brighter than ever. He had always been drawn to the unknown, to the mysteries no one else dared explore. And even now, that trait refused to let him turn back. His pulse raced, lungs burning, yet the urge to understand, to see what lay beyond, anchored him in the swirling void. Gravity returned abruptly, slamming him onto sand unlike any he had seen before. It was darker, finer, almost metallic, glinting faintly under a bruised purple sky. He scrambled to his feet, heart hammering, taking in the strange landscape. The mirror hovered behind him, perfectly still, reflecting not the desert he had left, but a distorted, warped version of it. And inside the mirror, he saw himself trapped, screaming silently, pounding against the glass. This version of him wasn't a simple reflection. It was alive, intelligent, and desperate. He froze, dread and fascination warring in his chest. For the first time, he understood that the mirror didn't just reflect reality, it revealed inner truths, fears, and possibilities. Every hesitation, every lapse in judgment, every reckless choice he had made had built the reflection before him. It was a version of himself shaped by doubt, impulse, and fear, and now it wanted freedom. The boy clenched his fists, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He could not let that self escape. He could not let it replace him. For the first time, he realized that his curiosity alone would not save him. Insight, patience, and courage combined would. He had to outthink it, outmaneuver it, and reclaim himself. The abandoned factory with its hidden rooms, the cliffs he had climbed despite their wobble. Each memory reminded him that bravery was not the absence of fear. He could do this. He had to. The reflection lunged. He pressed his hand against the mirror, testing it, feeling the cold. He noticed the imperfections in the reflection's motions, the slight delay, the hesitation. These tiny cracks gave him an advantage, a way to reclaim control without succumbing to panic. Arzor, what felt like hours, passed in a blur of attacks, the way it anticipated his actions. His curiosity had evolved from impulsive daring into strategic insight, guiding his movements with precision. Fear no longer paralyzed him, it informed him, alerting him to dangers he could exploit. He felt a strange empathy for the trapped self, recognizing that it was a product of his own flaws and impulses, yet he could not falter. The mirror demanded mastery, not mercy. Finally, the boy saw the moment. The reflection hesitated just long enough, its smirk faltering, revealing the vulnerability within. With a controlled surge of energy, he pressed both hands against the glass. Focusing on the connection between them, the mirror quivered violently, light and shadow rippling across its surface, and the trapped self screamed in silent terror. He realized then the truth. The reflection had never been an external threat. It was him. Every mistake, every lapse, every fearful impulse had created it. And now, through focus and courage, he could reclaim what was his. The mirror pulsed one last time, a violent shudder that sent sparks of energy across the sand. The trapped self twisted, reached for him, then dissolved into the surface, leaving him alone but changed. The dim, metallic desert around him began to shift, slowly becoming recognizable once again. The mirror stood silent, reflecting only him whole, unbroken, strengthened. The boy's chest heaved with exhaustion, but a strange clarity settled over him. He understood now that curiosity alone was dangerous. It must be tempered by insight, patience, and courage. The boy had survived not because he was reckless, but because he had grown. And yet, even as he straightened, feeling a new strength within. The mirror pulsed faintly, almost imperceptibly. A reminder, subtle but unmistakable, that the desert still held secrets beyond his comprehension. Something lingered waiting, watching, learning. The boy knew in his bones that this was not the end. The true challenge had only just begun, and as he took a cautious step forward, he could feel the ember of curiosity flare once more, tempered now into a controlled, determined flame, guiding him into whatever awaited on the other side of the desert's next secret. The boy stared at the mirror, its surface calm now, deceptively serene after the violent struggle that had consumed him. He could still feel the echo of the trapped self inside, a lingering memory that pressed against his mind like a phantom. The desert around him seemed quiet, almost too quiet, the sand still and metallic, the sky bruised and unnatural. He took a cautious step forward, testing the boundaries of this strange world. The ember of curiosity within him had evolved into a steady flame, no longer reckless but precise, focused, and unwavering. He had learned to confront fear, to outthink it. And now he was ready, or so he thought. The mirror pulsed faintly, an almost imperceptible rhythm that seemed to match the boy's heartbeat. He leaned closer, studying his own reflection, half expecting the trapped self to return. But it did not. For a moment, relief washed over him. He was alone. He was whole. He had won, and yet, deep in the back of his mind, a chill whispered that victory was only temporary. Something about the mirror still felt alive, aware, patient, and malevolent. The boy swallowed hard, feeling the weight of that unease settle over his shoulders like a physical burden. Then he noticed it, movement in the reflection that was not his own. A flicker in the corner of the glass, subtle but deliberate. The boy's pulse quickened. The reflection's eyes' own eyes now glinted with intelligence, with a cunning that felt alien. Slowly, deliberately, the reflection tilted its head and smiled. The boy froze, dread coiling in his stomach. This was not the trapped self he had defeated. This was something else, something that had been learning, growing, waiting for him to make a mistake. The mirror had never been a mere portalet, had been a teacher, and he had been its student, tested and shaped. Until he was ready for the final lesson, he backed away instinctively, but the sand shifted beneath him. Responding to an unseen force, the reflection's smile widened, stretching into something monstrous, almost inhuman. The boy realized with a cold, sinking certainty that the mirror had not only reflected him, it had absorbed him. Every fear, every impulse, every fragment of his identity had fed it, shaped it into a cunning, patient entity. And now it was ready to step into his world. The desert, the mirror, the strange metallic sand, they had all been a crucible, forging the reflection into something stronger than him, something that knew him better than he knew himself. Panic surged, but the boy forced himself to focus. He had grown through this ordeal. He had faced fear, mastered impulse, and honed his instincts. He could not allow this thing to replace him. He took a deep, steadying breath, centering himself. He thought of every challenge he had ever overcome, every risk he had taken, every moment that had defined him. Each memory, each lesson became a weapon, a tool to confront the impossible. He would not run. He would not falter. He would face the mirror and the entity within on his own terms. The reflection reached out, pressing its hand against the glass from the inside. The boy mirrored the motion, feeling the cold pulse of energy ripple through him. The air thickened, vibrating with unnatural force, and the desert seemed to bend around him. The reflection's eyes glowed, searching, probing, learning. It knew him intimately, every thought, every fear, every weakness. And yet, the boy realized something crucial. The mirror had taught him, shaped him, but it had also bound itself to the rules of his mind. He could fight back, not with brute force, but with awareness, with insight, with control over his own essence. He focused, centering all his attention on the reflection, on the connection between them. Slowly, deliberately, he began to shift, manipulating the energy between himself and the mirror. The trapped self inside screamed, twisted, and writhed. But the boy remained calm, guiding, shaping, mastering. The mirror pulsed violently, light and shadow rippling across its surface, and the desert around him trembled. He could feel the reflection's intelligence struggling against him, adapting, learning, yet always one step behind. For the first time, he realized the terrifying truth. The mirror was not just a reflection of him, It was a reflection of human nature itself. It had absorbed curiosity, fear, ambition, and desire, shaping them into a sentient force that thrived on understanding, manipulating, and ultimately consuming those who dared to challenge it. With a final surge of determination, the boy pressed forward, merging his awareness with the reflection, drawing it into himself. The mirror shuddered violently, light exploding in jagged patterns across the surface. The trapped self screamed, then dissipated, leaving only silence. The boy stood alone, panting, trembling but intact. The desert shifted, becoming almost recognizably like the one he had left, though darker, richer, and more alive. The mirror now reflected only him whole, aware, stronger. He had survived, grown, and conquered the reflection. But he knew that this victory came at a cost. He had glimpsed the terrifying potential of his own nature, the shadow that lurked in every choice, every impulse, every untested curiosity. The boy stepped back, surveying the landscape. The desert stretched endlessly, silent and indifferent. And yet, the mirror pulsed faintly, almost imperceptibly, a reminder that the world held secrets beyond comprehension. He had faced the ultimate reflection of himself and emerged stronger. But the ember of curiosity, tempered now with wisdom and insight, guiding him forward. He understood that life was not about avoiding fear or danger, but mastering it, learning from it, and growing stronger through every challenge. The desert, the mirror, and the reflection had been more than a test. They had been a crucible, shaping him into someone he had never been before. Aware, resilient, and ready for whatever lay ahead. As he turned to leave, a ripple passed through the mirror's surface, subtle yet undeniable. A faint whisper seemed to echo in the air, indistinct but insistent, promising more mysteries, more challenges, more revelations. The boy paused, heart racing, mind alert. He knew now that the desert was not empty, that the mirror was not inert, and that the reflection, though defeated, had left a part of itself behind, a seed of something waiting, watching, learning. And the boy, strengthened but still human, stepped forward into the unknown, knowing that the true journey had only just begun. The desert stretched ahead, vast and merciless. But he was no longer the same boy who had stumbled upon a mirror in the sand. He had grown. He had mastered fear, and he was ready for the terrifying secrets that still lay hidden, waiting to be discovered.